League of Legends was hacked. New Dead Island Epidemic details are in. Perfect World talks upcoming titles. Blizzard discusses WoW's future with free-to-play, and more on this week's episode of Free-to-Play Weekly. Riot Games is now the latest gaming behemoth to fall victim to hacking. A hacker was able to gain access to 120,000 North American League of Legends usernames, email addresses, transaction records, salted password hashes, and full names. The passwords are fortunately unreadable, but the information gained will make accounts with easily guessed passwords vulnerable. All the stolen information was from 2011, and none of the records contained any info after July. Interestingly, the hacker has apparently been very vocal about his exploits. In multiple posts, which have since been deleted from the official League of Legends forums, the hacker insisted he didn't steal the information in order to use it, but instead hacked Riot's servers in order to show Riot that their server and account security was subpar. In an email sent out to all affected players explaining the situation and prompting them to change their passwords, Riot also spoke of their efforts to correct their security flaws. Some of the changes include account info updates requiring email verification and the fact that you must now actually provide a valid email address. So say goodbye to lol123@asdf.com. The changes are set to go into effect shortly, but one has to ask, for a game with more concurrent players than World of Warcraft, why were such standard features not implemented long ago? So, Snail Games released some details last week regarding their decision to implement a time-based loot system, whereby players would pay for loot acquired at certain time intervals. Reactions from gamers were unanimously negative, but Snail Games recently released some updated information explaining how the system would work for its North American release. Long story short, the time-based system only applies to bonus loot. All loot, including endgame, can be acquired in the game normally without the need to make a purchase. Similar to bonus rewards and experience in other games, Snail Games will allow players to gain a vial of time, which will contain loot based on their activity during a certain time period. Players can choose to purchase the vial and acquire the extra loot within, or sell it to gain credits in order to purchase their own. So, what do you think of this new system? Does this change your opinion of BombGold? Let us know. Fans of the Dead Island series may be disappointed to hear that the upcoming Dead Island Epidemic MOBA will not be in first person. Epidemic will in fact employ a camera scheme more comparable to Bloodline Champions than League of Legends. Fitting, since Techland will not be returning to the helm, but will instead be passing the torch to Stunlock Studios, the developers behind Bloodline Champions. Similarly, Epidemic will share more in common mechanically with Bloodline Champions than League of Legends. Notably, players will use their left and right mouse buttons to perform light and heavy attacks. 3 teams of 4 will battle it out over various modes, including Capture the Flag. The 3 teams fight over control points while also having to deal with random packs of zombies. During these waves of zombies, players may find it advantageous to team up with the enemy groups in order to better handle the incoming threats and the ever-looming zombie bosses. Techland says that unlike other MOBAs, the gameplay isn't focused on attacking the other team's base, but instead on tackling dynamic gameplay objectives. Players will be able to choose from at least 6 classes and craft their own weapons, trinkets, and items. Just like in the original Dead Island, once crafted, the weapons can be upgraded with other parts to form unique weapons which suit the player's current needs. Deep Silver has yet to divulge any release date or beta news. This year's Gamescom was just wrapped up in Cologne, Germany. MMOBomb had the opportunity to talk with, excuse my Dutch, Nick Van Tischip, the product manager for Perfect World. We were able to sit down with Nick and discuss what the future may hold for Perfect World's next MMO ambitions. We now know for sure that Perfect World is currently examining whether there's a market in Europe and the US for 3 MMOs called Saint Seiya Online, Swordsman Online, and The Legend of the Condor Heroes. Saint Seiya Online is already being published by Perfect World in China. The MMO is based on an old manga series called Saint Seiya, which hasn't been published since 1991. Swordsman Online happens to be an MMO based on a popular Chinese martial arts novel by Louis Cha. The MMO bears a striking resemblance of Age of Wushu, and for good reason. The MMO uses an upgraded version of Age of Wushu's engine, which has had a noticeable impact on the game's overall visual fidelity. Whether Swordsman Online represents an upgraded Age of Wushu or an entirely new martial arts MMO remains to be seen. Finally, Legend of the Condor Heroes represents Perfect World's first self-developed action MMORPG. The martial arts MMO has yet to be released in China, so unless Perfect World plans on releasing it in various regions simultaneously, chances are we won't see Legend of the Condor heroes in the West anytime soon. Way before Neverwinter was even an idea on Cryptic Studios' design board, Dungeons & Dragons Online ruled the virtual D&D scene. Last week, the MMO celebrated the launch of its newest expansion, Shadowfell Conspiracy. The expansion features 2 new adventure packs, Wayloon and Stormhorns, new iconic heroes, and an increased level cap of 28. The 2 new zones present widely different experiences. Players will disguise themselves as hardened criminals in the prison city of Wayloon and venture deep into the mountains of Stormhorns to destroy a Netherese secret weapon. Iconic heroes will also be available, each with their own unique look and abilities which encompass the powers of such a paragon. For more information on the expansion, be sure to visit the full article on MMOBomb.com. Ubisoft has once again enlisted the help of their internal studio's Blue Byte in order to create Panzer General Online, a turn-based wargame for browsers. In true Ubisoft fashion, Panzer General Online is based on an older established series by the same name. Players take turns commanding armies of tanks, planes, and infantry across well-known historical battles which took place during World War II. Panzer General Online will feature both single-player and multiplayer modes. However, the single-player mode will mainly serve as a tutorial, guiding the player through iconic battles before sending them off to the real war against players. As players progress, they can collect and trade their units with others in order to create their own personal army. Panzer General Online is currently accepting closed beta signups on the official website now. Blizzard has finally admitted they may embrace the free-to-play model somewhere down the line for World of Warcraft. Speaking to Polygon last week, Tom Chilton, lead designer for World of Warcraft, said it would make sense for Blizzard to go free-to-play at some point. What Chilton and the rest of Blizzard worries about is the risk involved in making that transition. You hear stories about developers going free-to-play and getting double the number of players, but you don't always know it works out that way and how long it stays that way, said Chilton. We really don't know what the rate is before people drop off and lose interest. Some players have voiced their desire to return to the MMO if it chose to go free-to-play, while others said it would have the adverse effect. World of Warcraft has already implemented a cash shop dedicated to cosmetic items and mounts. Would you play WoW if it went free-to-play? And the game of the week is March of War. March of War is a 3D turn-based strategy game set in an alternative 1940s diesel punk universe. Players will choose to side with one of 6 factions in a bid for world domination. To do this, players will need to build and manage their own roster of unique racial units, which can be upgraded over time. These units range from small biker bombers and guerrillas to flying fortresses and giant war elephants. The strategy game features a persistent overworld map where players choose to attack and defend strategic locations as they push to conquer and expand their empire. Each match has players capturing command points in order to acquire resources to deploy larger troops. March of War features episodic content which is released each month and contains new additions the community voted for. From these polls, the devs determine what content should be added next, further propelling the conflict storyline between each faction and those that fight for them. Players can choose to engage in March of War battles for multiple devices including Windows, OS X, Android, and iOS thanks to March of War's cross-platform compatibility. So if you're looking for a strategy with unique armies, collectible units, and a persistent metagame, then be sure to check out March of War. That is going to be all for this week's episode of Free-to-Play Weekly. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section below. And be sure to head over to MMOBomb.com for more free-to-play action. I just wanted to make a tiny announcement that Spunkify and I will be at PAX Prime this coming weekend, so there will be no Free-to-Play Weekly next week. But if you guys are at PAX Prime, I'll see you there. And for those of you at home, I'll see you guys the week after. Until next time, Natsumii out.